Only 2% of venture capital funding worldwide
Yep.
goes to female companies.
Yeah, female-only founders. So, if you think about the millions and millions and millions of dollars, only 2% of that will go to companies that just are founded by females alone. And then if you expand that to mixed gender founded groups, you might get about 10% of funding. So 90% of funding that's invested from venture capitalists go to male-only founded companies. And often that's because the people writing the checks historically have made their wealth through the same way. And so they sort of have this perception that the sort of person that will be successful is like them. So they tend to fund themselves. But yeah, so we need to pretty much fund hundreds-fold more female-only started companies to end up with the same at the end of the pipeline when you apply the funding rate. So yeah. And I think for me, what angers me about that is on many levels, but at the core, I believe that you need all types of people to be founders and all types of people to create solutions. So you don't want one type of person creating the solutions because they're going to create a solution that works for them and maybe not everyone else. And so if we're only funding one type of startup, we're only creating solutions for part of society, not for all of society. So it's a problem that just is going to keep growing and growing till we change that.
Wow. That is going to be an interesting discussion. Hi, everybody. I'm Nikki Sloan. I'm the CEO of Community Industry Group, and I'm coming to you today from the beautiful lands of the Dharawal people to bring you Community Matters, the podcast that explores issues that are important in the community with people who are making a difference. And today I'm joined by the amazing Dr. Tamantha Stutchbury, who is the CEO of a wonderful institution called iAccelerate. And the first thing I'm going to do, Tamantha, is ask you to tell everybody what iAccelerate is.
Yeah, look, so we're incredibly lucky in the Illawarra region to have iAccelerate. It's in its 10th year of operations now in its current facility, and we are what is known in the sector as a startup accelerator and incubator. So pretty much we are a program and a physical space that provides everything that you need and support along the way to take an idea and build it into a successful company, and then either go and run that company out in the community, or it might be that you're selling that company or doing something else with it. And so it was a real vision of the university at its time to set it up, and we are Australia's physically largest and longest running university-backed accelerator. And
so this is University of Wollongong.
Yeah, yes. And to have that in our region means that we support students, we support great ideas that are created at a lab bench that need to get out into the world, but we're also there for anyone in the region that wants to create a startup. So the physical building we were in was funded through the sale of the ports, the privatisation of the ports, and so we always at the centre of everything we do say that we are for the community. So anyone that wants support from us can come in and we will give them support.
So you don't have to be a University of Wollongong student?
No.
And you don't necessarily have to be young?
No.
No? And you certainly don't necessarily have to be male?
You definitely don't need to be male. There's nothing wrong if you are, but, we really, you don't have to be a particular type of person. You don't even need to resonate with that word entrepreneur.
Right.
And you don't need to be building a company for profit. It could be profit for purpose and a social enterprise. So we will help you create whatever type of vision you want to create. So it's, we will have people that are doing it to create a lot of money, but we also have people that are doing it just to create a real difference in the world, or because they've seen a problem and they think they're the right person to fix it. And then you mix that group of people together and it's a really exciting ecosystem.
I've been to iAccelerate many times. It's a really dynamic place, and people are really open to interacting with people from all different sectors. And
I think part of that is iAccelerate and the vibe of iAccelerate.
Yes.
It was purpose-built to be a startup accelerator and incubator, and so it's designed for that collaboration space. But I think it's also because it's in Wollongong. Like, I really do believe we exist in an amazing community where everyone wants to help each other, everyone's connected. And when I go to Sydney, everyone often goes, how are you connected with the Sydney startup scene? And my response is, how are you connected with what we're doing in the Illawarra? Because it is a really special place to build a startup because of that support, because everyone will open doors to each other. Everyone will make a referral. Everyone will have a coffee with you. You know, you're not alone if you're building a startup in Wollongong, and that's because of iAccelerate, but because of the community we're in.
I 100% agree. The startups that come through iAccelerate, are they all going to then be like techie companies?
No. So like we're sector agnostic. You know, some of the companies or people in the industry that you would know of that have come through, right? So Yours and Ours. The guys from Yours and Ours were a resident in iAccelerate for many years, you know, running music festivals. We've got Recovery Camp in there that is running camps for people with significant enduring mental health illnesses and taking students away to do their placements. So we've got social enterprises. We do have some amazing deep tech companies. We've got one company, VDAC, that has exited, that started two young guys, as you would sort of think of a traditional entrepreneurship, two young guys last year of engineering. And, you know, they now employ, you know, hundreds of people in the Illawarra and have outgrown us and are living elsewhere in the Illawarra. So it's all types. And I think that, again, is something special about iAccelerate, is that we're not looking just for deep tech or just for clean energy or just for health. We are integrated. And then in the program, you're integrated. So sometimes you've never seen anything more humbling than getting a professor to get up and pitch against someone from the community pitching their idea, because you're all equals when you come in. You're all learning together. And so we will have undergraduate students pitching against their professors, pitching against people from the community. And everyone goes to me, we should have separate cohorts. So I'm like, no. Like, this is where the magic happens. So, yeah.
So when people come into iAccelerate, well, what did they get? They get a space.
Yep.
And
what else?
It's not just that, though, is it?
No, it's not just that. And I think people have a preconception about what we are and therefore assume we aren't for them. So I always say to anyone, click on our website. You can book a call with one of my team from the website and have a chat to us about where you're at. So we will do programs for people very early stage that is very structured, where you'll go through an 8 or 10 week course, and we will not only teach you but encouraging you to do the things you need to do to test your ideas. One of the biggest hurdles is talking to customers or potential customers. And that's a really scary thing. And so many people go so far down the track before they actually find out if anyone wants it or is willing to pay for it. So we give you a safe space to do that. But we will also attract people in that might be at home with 2 or 5 people that need to scale, that need to grow their company, and they've taken it as far as they can on their own and they need some support. And then we work with existing businesses that want to either launch a new product or launch into a new market. It's really hard to innovate when you're busy doing the day-to-day. So we will let people put a small team in our organisation to act like a startup for months or a year to develop something new that then will then get integrated back into a company. So we just give anything anyone needs. And if you've got a different idea of how you can use us, then come to me and we'll see if we can make it work. So,
because people often would have a great idea and be able to develop the idea, but to be able to commercialise it is a really different thing, isn't it?
Yep.
Like, you need to know how to run a company, how to manage your finances, where to get a loan from.
But I think it's like in any new role or any new adventure, you don't know all the answers at the start, or else why would you go on that journey? It would be a little bit boring. And I think a lot of people think, I don't know how to do that, so I'm not the sort of person that could make that happen. But you can, you know, and you, in a connected community, we can always give you the skills. And so the biggest challenge we have is people having a problem and knowing they need technology for the solution, and they're not technology people.
Right.
And that's where being backed by a world-class university comes into it, because we can get students involved, we can get researchers involved, and often, especially when you look at students that are studying, they want to gain access to real-world problems. They don't want to learn, you know, textbook stuff. They want to get out and solve real problems, but they don't know the problem. So if we can find the environment where we can connect real problems with students that want to solve them, and then that creates some sort of magic, and potentially that becomes a founder team, or potentially that organisation employs that student upon graduation, or it gives the student confidence to look for another problem to solve. It's never a one-to-one solution. It just iterates. So it's about creating the right environment where all those touch points come together.
Yeah, that's really amazing. There are plenty of problems out there looking for a solution.
And often, if you're an engineer, don't take this the wrong way, but often engineers create solutions looking for problems because, they've got a very particular skill set. And I think, as we've discussed, with AI in the community sector, with the changing workforce needs, everything's running so fast. And when you're working in organisations where you've got lots of consumers you're helping, it's hard to find time to do more than the doing. Like the doing takes up so much time. Yeah. So how do you find time to do the innovating? And that's where I hope that having iAccelerate in this region can really help all your members and go, well, I don't need to come up with the solution. I just need to give someone my problem and see if they can come up with the solution with me and for me.
And yes, as Tamantha hinted, we have been having some discussions about how we could bring community sector problems and bring them in front of some people who will look at them from a very different angle.
Yep.
And I think that's really exciting. That's a really exciting resource, just to have those people who look at something from a really different angle.
Yeah. And we've launched a couple of undergraduate subjects which any students at the University of Wollongong can do. So one of them's in second year, one of them's in third year. And the second year one is learning entrepreneurial skills, and we get industry to come in and pitch problems. So never know who might be pitching problems next. And then the next one, the third year one, is sort of startup in a subject where students come up with their own startup idea and then they spend a semester building that startup. But they're electives that are across the whole university. So you have dietitians and engineers and artists and business majors all working together and making like the founder team to try and build these. And when we ran this subject last year, we've now got 3 new companies in iAccelerate, which are the graduates of that subject that are now actually doing it and building their companies.
Wow, that's so exciting.
Yeah, it is.
That's so exciting. So when people are building their companies, how does iAccelerate help them attract like the funding they need?
Yep.
Because often you need some foundation funding, don't you, to get started?
Yeah, and look, it's really complex, and not time stamping this, but after the latest budget, it's become even more complex. So, depending on the type of company in the industry, we look at starting off with potentially gifts like friends and family. We've also got a philanthropic fund where people can give back to support student startups. So, and then often you'll move into the sort of formalised angel networks that can give some early stage investments, and then looking for grants. And so depending on the company, both state and federal government have a whole range of grants, some that academics can apply for to get their ideas out of uni, some that startups can apply for. There's also R&D tax incentives. So what we do is we have expertise in that, but we will also bring in the relevant people to come and give sessions and talk about that. And so no 2 journeys are the same. Some people will take next to no salary and work really hard, especially very young people, whereas others might have been working for 20 or 30 years and have a nest egg, and they've been waiting till they can back themselves and start their startup. And then we try and get every dollar they've got to be leveraged and built so that it grows and grows and grows until you're at a point where people will pay for whatever you're trying to sell. And depending on what it is, like if it's an AI or a software thing, that might be a matter of weeks or months. But if you're building a new deep tech prototype or expanding into a whole new industry, you might need 5 years of runway before you're going to make a sale. Like some of our big companies in this region are still pre-revenue because it takes so long if you're building into a whole new industry to get through all the regulatory hurdles and prototype and manufacturing hurdles. So it's different for everyone.
What a complex and you must be seeing so many really interesting new startups across so many different sectors and at different stages. It must be very rewarding.
I know I have one of the best jobs in the world, and it's because, like, I get to play every day. We treat iAccelerate like a startup, so we put ourselves through the same conditions that we would put our companies through, and we try lots of stuff, and we're not afraid to fail. So yeah, it's pretty great. But circling back to our first conversation, I do see the same type of people attracting the funding, and I do want to see more diversity in who's attracting funding, and I do want government programs, when they're handing out funding, to at least be reporting on diversity and equity of where the money's going. So is it going all in the city centres? Is it going out to the regions? Is it all going to one gender? Is it going to people that maybe don't have English as a first language or that are living with a disability? Because they've got these amazing solutions that we need to help grow too.
Absolutely. I'm glad you circled back to that, because how do we shift the dial? 2%. Women make up more than 50%.
We're 51% of the population, I think. So, and I think what I say to government when I get a chance to be in the room to them is, like, especially when you talk about a future made in Australia and being able to manufacture and create our own sort of self-sustainability in Australia, there is enough to go around, and we actually can't do that if we ignore 50% of the population. We actually won't have enough people and workers and workforce if we're only tapping into half the population. And that's true for a manufacturing and a STEM workforce, and it's also true in entrepreneurship. We just can't afford not to be supporting half the population to do this if we want to grow and innovate at the scale which both the government says we want to and that we need to as a society.
So do you think then the solution is some positive discrimination? Do we need some women entrepreneur specific funding rounds? Or
look, there are women specific programs. There's women specific venture capital funding. I think for me the biggest hurdle is getting the people writing the checks to acknowledge that it's a problem.
Yes.
I don't actually think that, I don't really believe in women only programs. I'm like, let's get it in there and go toe to toe and show everyone how amazing we are. And maybe that's because I've built a career. I started in science and I went through a lab doing a PhD where I was one or two women to many, many times men's, and my whole career has been me at a table of men. So I'm like, I don't want to be in a women's only thing. I don't want us to have to change. I want everyone else to accept that it's not appropriate that we're only giving 2% of funding, and they need to fix it, and they need to fix it from within. And the government has levers they could be pulling around this that they should be pulling.
I agree. And, we're seeing things like the Workplace Gender Equality Agency and companies having to report on their gender pay gaps. Yep. And it's so important. So there is awareness out there that women are being paid less.
Yep.
We need to raise the awareness that women are actually being supported less as entrepreneurs and as business owners.
Yep. I always say to people, it's us in society too. Like when you're at a barbecue and you're sitting around and the next generation's all around you, your kids, their friends are coming over. The words of encouragement that you would say to a young boy about becoming an engineer or becoming a startup founder or going into a particular field, make sure you're giving the same messages to the young girls in the room. And I think not only we need better equity in all workforces, we need more men in the community sector, we need more women in the STEM sector. This having gendered careers is so outdated, and we need to move beyond that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I can remember my mother-in-law telling my daughter that hairdresser's a very good job for a girl, and I said, it is a very good job, and so is being a doctor. Or a builder.
As someone who was first in family to university, it's incredibly overwhelming. And I think for people whose parents went to university, or, you don't understand how scary that first step is and how unknown it is. So we all need to use our voice to encourage everyone to take the confidence of that first step.
Yes, I agree. And I likewise first in family at university, so I do understand. And you were recently named the Wollongong Local Woman of the Year, which is a great recognition of what you've done. But could you tell us a little bit about how you started out and ended up as the Wollongong Woman of the Year?
Yeah, look, it was an incredible surprise, an incredible honour, and it's lovely to be recognised in that way. So pretty much when I finished school, it was I was living in southern Sydney. I'd only been living there for about a year. And I got my ATAR result at the time, and it was either sort of turn left to one of the cities in the uni or turn right to Wollongong, and I turned right to Wollongong, and I've never looked back. So I came down for a new degree down here called Medicinal Chemistry, which was about drug design and development. And at the end of that, I signed up for a PhD, and I'm really sure my parents didn't know what a PhD was. I'm not quite sure I did when I signed up to it. And then you fast forward a couple of years, we with some amazing researchers and clinicians in Wollongong, created a new cancer therapeutic at the University of Wollongong. And that we started shopping around to spin out and commercialise, and I got to go and pitch and sort of walk that founder path. And I had 4 children at the time. I think I don't know what I had, a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old or something. And so I actually decided to leave the bench for a more stable career and join the commercialisation team of the university. And so then spent about a decade learning how to manage IP and do commercialisation. And was really involved in the startup of what became the iAccelerate initiative. And then in the meantime, I then went and ran our Global Challenges program, really trying to get researchers to work together to solve community needs. And so I feel like I've built my whole career and life around creating good ideas and then working to get them out into the world where they make a difference.
Yes, I love that you're really reaching down and bringing people through as well in what you're doing.
Like, I think, as you know, I'll have a coffee with anyone that reaches out and wants advice or support. And like, I do a lot of my mentoring quietly, but that's what we should all be doing, and it's not a woman's problem to fix. So, everyone out there that works at BHP, that the dad worked at BHPs and brothers and uncles, or, we all need to be encouraging diversity of a future workforce.
So this podcast is called Community Matters. Yep. Can you tell us about somebody in the community that matters to you?
One of the things that has changed my life the most in going through this is obviously, that I was stepmom to a son with severe disabilities. And I think back when in the 2000s when I met his dad, I just had this naive belief that we looked after people in the community that had disabilities or needed support better than we do. This is way back pre-NDIS, pre-funding. And so I think my own lived experience, but then also caring for someone through that life journey, has just made me stop constantly to go, are you looking around at your community and ensuring that we're not leaving people behind? So
that's a wonderful reflection, and what a difference he's made for you and for our community by extension.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Tamantha. That's just been a really fascinating discussion. The work you're doing at iAccelerate is amazing, and I just think we've already seen some amazing companies come out of there, and there is no limit to what people can do when they've got something like iAccelerate to support them.
Yeah,
so
we should be very proud of it in this region, and please reach out if we can help you in any way.
Beautiful, thank you. And thank you all for watching or listening today to Community Matters, the podcast where we explore issues that are important in the community with people who are making a difference, people just like Tamantha. Please do like us, share this episode, leave us a review, and tune in next time for more Community Matters.